each way, I'm going to get my exercise this weekend, which I probably need. So, before I announce the next film, I just want to give you a quick little background on this. I saw this particular movie in Salina with my business operations manager, Mr. Joe Maurer. And it rocked the both of us for, I guess, completely different reasons. And when you see the film, you'll probably understand why. But it was on a day that I was feeling very low about the aspirations for this festival and feeling very low about myself. And this film kind of was a turning point for me. It kind of made me understand the life I had and made me understand some of the blessings that I've had. I've been very blessed to have a father that's had my back my entire life and that supported me no matter how crazy I get, and I get pretty crazy. So with that, I would like to, at this time, present Mr. Justin Hunt with the 2012 Director's Choice Award for his film Absent.
That's not Justin. Hey, thank you everyone for coming out. I appreciate it. I appreciate you supporting Lynn. If you would, please, will you give him one more hand? Because he's done a lot of I don't usually do introductions to the film, and I'll keep it very brief, but I do have to introduce my associate producers. This is my son, Lance. We called each other before we came, so our outfits turned out that way. And this is my beautiful daughter, Abby. And you'll see them both in the film, and afterwards, hopefully you'll understand why we're standing up here together, because it's such an important role that we play as men, to be fathers to kids. And the two things that I would say about this award, because it's a very special award, I really, really appreciate it, it means a lot to me, is as far as the film is concerned, it's a reminder to people, again, how noble that role is of fatherhood, and maybe it will help you understand your father a little bit. Maybe it will help you understand how to be a better father. Maybe it will help you understand the people in your life that are dealing with things that, you might have gotten irritated or judgmental about them, and maybe it will help you understand why they may be the way they are. So from the standpoint of the film, hopefully it will enlighten you a little bit and lift the veil and help you understand some things. And then as far as filmmaking, I just think, for all of the filmmakers that are here, are you done adjusting your pants yet? Stop making adjustments. Are you good? All set? Okay. This guy took longer to get ready than all of us. But you look good. The girls did too, that's true. But for the filmmakers that are here, I hope that everyone realizes that filmmaking is really an extension of it's storytelling. And storytelling is such a wonderful craft, and it's been around for so long that film festivals like this and being able to tell our story, and like Greg just did with his story. My movie is absolutely different than his story, but his story is his story, and that's why it's awesome that he made it and that he showed it to everyone that's here. And that's how I feel about my movie and everyone else that has the courage to do it. So this is to encourage filmmakers as well to keep telling the story, because that's very, very vital to our culture, and it's just damn fun to do. So with that, and I just have to say thanks real quick to everyone that's involved here too. Lynn, Joe, Linda, everyone. Thank you guys so much. Really means a lot to us, and I appreciate your hospitality here. It's a cool little town, isn't it, guys? Yeah? Want to say thanks? Just say thanks.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. His father was alive, and he was doing business with him and didn't even realize it. And so he found his dad after 43 years. And so when we screened the film for the first time, I'm sitting there, and the thing about Johnny was like a 6-year-old who would knock you out. He was like a little kid, but he was a great guy. And Johnny's sitting in the middle, and I'm holding one hand, and his dad's holding the other hand, and we're trying to decide if we're going to tell anybody about this. And he asked me at that screening if I would introduce his dad for the first time. And so, what makes it so sad about Johnny is that even finding his dad, the demons were just too much for him to overcome. And so, it was interesting to watch the film for the first time after he was gone. So the other thing about it too, as I watched it, I don't know if we got to it on the credits or not, but on the website, the Absent website, people can write letters to their fathers anonymously, which I cannot tell you how powerful that has been. And I just came out with this book, and it's dedicated to Johnny, this first volume, but this is a collection of the first 100 letters. It's called Sincerely Anonymous. Some of these letters are just unbelievable, but we've got some books out there. We've got Absent, we've got American Meth out there as well, and I'd be happy to visit with you if we have to get out of here. But anyways, I just wanted to share that story about Johnny with you because it was really touching. I hadn't seen the film since he passed away. So now that I've taken up 8 minutes of our 15, if there's any questions, now is the time. Yeah.
How did this come about, and kind of give us a little bit of what made you want to do this film?
Well, it kind of came about the same way that American Meth came about, which is that this is a huge topic and nobody was dealing with it. That's one of the main reasons why we did it. I always joke that I gave my dad a complex because I made this movie. My dad was actually a really good dad, but it just was a topic that wasn't being handled. And for me, I'm a pretty faithful guy, and I feel like we're all kind of given a skill set, and we should try to use those skill sets to glorify God and do what we're called to do, and that's why I made these films. It's not because I was a meth addict, even though I get asked that a lot. I'm like, have you seen my belly? I'm not a meth addict, obviously. And then the father thing was just, it wasn't something that was being handled. And Mark Garcia is kind of a mentor of mine, and I went on the first 3 Wild Man trips. That's how I knew about that. And it was just, trying to use my skill set to make a difference in telling stories. So those were the primary reasons, just because it is, like Father Rohr says, Father Rohr also did a foreword for the book. He's right, it's the most universal wound on the planet, period. And I've shown this in 7 countries, and the reaction is the same no matter where you go. So those are the main reasons. Yes, ma'am.
What was your budget?
Not much. I probably spent about $30,000 or $40,000 just getting it made, and then some people came in after the movie was done to help us get it out into the world, film festivals, Metallica stuff. Just as a cool sidebar for any Metallica fans out there, there's 11 Metallica songs on this movie, which is the second most of any movie ever made. And those guys are unbelievable. James and I have become really, really good friends. We went on Fox News together, which, if you can get a rock star to get up at 3 in the morning to go on Fox News, that's pretty cool. So, yeah, not much. Yes. Hold on, go ahead.
How did you get James Hetfield involved with this project?
I love this question because I'm a huge Metallica fan. Huge. And I'm talking since 5th grade. And I never really went into that with him, but I did an interview with a magazine in Romania, and I said that Metallica's been my best friend for 25 years. But this is a crazy thing, and this is why I think it's a God thing. I went to a school in Bloomfield, New Mexico, which we graduated 120 people. Very, very tiny school. When I was a sophomore, there was a senior named Tiffany Cromartie, and she was a cheerleader. Her dad was a football coach. I had a crush on her. She didn't even know I existed, right? 15, however many years later, we became friends on Facebook, and she made a comment about a Metallica concert I was at, and she was like, kind of busting on me for that. And I said, well, what's the deal? This girl from our little town of 4,000 people became a classical musician in San Francisco, and her kids go to school with his kids, and her husband's an entertainment attorney. So I wrote an email, she gave it to her husband gave it to Metallica's attorney, it got down to James, and 3 months later I was sitting in front of the one guy I ever wanted to meet in the world. How awesome is that, right? And what's cool is I did the interview with him, and that was great for me, but I think what happened that he didn't expect is what it did for him as a father. And just to show, I mean, Metallica, you know Metallica? They're huge. They're almost completely inaccessible. He called the newspaper in my little town of Farmington, New Mexico, where I used to live, and did an interview with the paper there. And in that interview, he said that Justin's done more for me than I could ever do for him. That's awesome. I get all talking about. So, yeah, that's how I got James. Yeah, and a great guy, too. Really amazing guy. As a matter of fact, to show you how cool he is, he took the kids to Metallica headquarters, and Abby, my little girl, was playing Lars's drums, and Lance was playing Kirk Hammett's guitar. Really, really cool story. Me and this guy know what we're talking about. Sorry, I digress. Anyone else? Yes? Over narrative filmmaking? Well, I was a news anchor for NBC for about 8 years. And so I have a real heavy journalistic background, and then I started a production company doing, just videos around the little town that I lived in, and it just kind of progressed. But if you watch American Meth, and then you watch after, you can tell that they're long, in-depth news stories, and they're told that way. And I just finished my third film called The Speed of Orange. It's a little bit different. You saw the trailer for it. Very excited to show that. But now I'm starting to transition into the narrative. I'd like to direct a couple of narrative features and see how that goes. But I just like telling the story. I mean, the marriage of sound and picture is unbelievably powerful if you do it the right way. So, yeah.
How far did it change from the idea you came in with till as you started interacting with all these people and going around the country? How the end result different from what you came in with?
Well, you do this yourself, and you know how this is. You kind of go, especially documentary filmmaking, you have some key points that you know. And like one of the first things I knew I wanted Johnny Tapia because I was from New Mexico, I knew that story. I knew I wanted to talk to prostitutes because you're not going to find a prostitute that had a good father. Sorry, it's just not going to happen. I knew I wanted to talk to inner city high school kids. And so those things I knew I wanted to do, but the rest of it's literally like just putting your raft in the river, and it's going to take you where it takes you. And that's kind of how we got Robin, and that's how we got James. It was totally unexpected. And so, and it's very much like sculpting. You know that. You have this big blob, and then you just start going, doing a thing, and you're like, no, the nose is too big, so you fix that. And you just kind of keep adjusting it. And learning as I'm going and doing the research and reading these books and living it. I mean, I'm a single dad. Well, I'm not single anymore, thanks to my beautiful girlfriend, Danielle, who's going to get mad at me for saying that. But for 8 years, it was just me and Lance and Abby. And so living that as well helped shape the film. And so, I had some general ideas, but it did change quite a bit. And then, of course, the whole James thing changed stuff as well. So that shaped the film a little bit more. Anyone else? Yes?
I thought it was a beautiful film and well made. I'm a little concerned about the ideology of gender. It seemed as if you polarized men as being aggressive in the need for adventure, and women as needing valuation and needing to be beautiful. And for me as a woman, I had a very good father who affirmed me a lot, but he also affirmed my sense of adventure, my sense of assertiveness. Sure. And I think I'm really concerned about the depiction of gender. I think it's oversimplified and possibly damaging to women.
Okay, well, I appreciate that opinion, and I can understand where you're coming from. I think the toughest part that a lot of people and audience members have a hard time not understanding, because audience members are intelligent people, it's not the hard part of understanding, it's just realizing how difficult it is to take that large of a topic, and you do have to generalize it to some degree. And I think what Eldridge was really just trying to do there is we've lost the importance, or we've lost focus on the importance of the fact that we do need to have gender differences. That's not to say that boys are just supposed to be taught to be adventurous and strong, and girls are just supposed to be taught to be pretty and, you know, get looked at, but that those are some of the core elements that little girls need and that little boys need, and that's kind of getting lost. I think that's what he's doing, and it does seem like it's a generalization, but really you have no choice but to generalize when you're taking such a large topic and trying to fit it into 90 minutes. And so we could do an entire different film just on that part of it, I think. Because you're right, it's not just about making sure that a girl feels pretty and a boy feels strong. It's not about that, but I think he was just trying to get the point across that we need to realize the core needs of what, you know, kids need, and they're different. Boys do have different questions than girls. I have one of each, and I know that for a fact. So I don't think that he was trying to, you know, really state that that's all they need, but in general, at a base level, they need to get those questions answered.
I've read Eldridge's books.
Yeah.
In the book on beauty, he's obsessed with the concept of beauty for women. I think it's overdone.
Okay. Well, that's an Eldridge thing. That's an Eldridge thing. So, yes.
What was the hardest thing or the most challenging thing taking such a large project like this and all the footage and making it into 90 minutes? What was your hardest challenge?
It really was just that, because it's very easy to, when you're making documentaries, it's easy to go off on a tangent and to get lost in that. And I think what the hardest part is to just, you know, when you write television news, for example, when you write broadcast news, you write to a 6th grade level. And that's not to be insulting to your audience, it's just to make sure that they get the news and that it's simplified. And that's kind of the hardest part here, is that there are some really, really deep-seated issues here. And, you know, if you don't believe that, read some of these letters or look at some of the comments on Netflix or iTunes about the film or things like that. There are really deep-seated things, but it's like, the hardest part was just saying, okay, I can only spend 4 minutes on this and then I need to move on to the next thing, or I can only give this 3 minutes. Because really, you could take a handful of topics in that and make an entire movie on any of them. And so that was the hardest part, is you can get emotionally attached to a film when you're making it. And the hardest part is shutting that down and saying, okay, I know you really like this shot, or you really like this idea, or you really want to go crazy with that, but we need to move on. And that's the hardest part, is trimming the fat off to make it very lean and make it palatable for someone from, you know, a psychologist who understands it to a high school student or a 20-year-old who's about to be a father. You've got to be able to hit both demographics. So, yes.
How long was the entire process when you first had the idea to
That's a great question. I decided to make this film on August 28th of 2007. And I know that because it was the day after I screened it. And I was driving home visiting with Mark. We'd gone fly fishing, and I showed it 3 years later for the first time. So it took 3 years. And then we released it on September 5th of last year. So really 4 years when you count the whole film festival circuit and all of that, and then finally getting it into the public forum. So 4 years. Very long 4 years. Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right. Well, Lynn, thank you for having us from Phoenix. We came up from Phoenix, and we unfortunately have to leave